Section 31 breaks a key Star Trek movie tradition after 46 years, and it won't be the only time. For almost half a century, Star Trek movies have followed a rhythm that fans came to see as sacred. Each new cinematic entry, regardless of whether it's centered on Kirk's crew, Picard's enterprise, or a rebooted timeline, carried with it a sense of grand exploration, moral dilemma, and hopeful messaging. Even the darker chapters, The Wrath of Khan, First Contact, Into Darkness, never abandoned that undercurrent of optimism. But the upcoming Star Trek Section 31 movie is already breaking one of the franchise's most enduring traditions, and in doing so, it signals that the rules governing Star Trek films may be permanently shifting. And truthfully, it won't be the only tradition shattered. The tradition of Star Trek films. The crew comes first. Since Star Trek, the motion picture in 1979, every Star Trek film has centered on the shared journey of a ship's crew. Whether it was the original cast grappling with aging, the TNG ensemble confronting Borg nightmares, or even the Kelvin timeline reboot, audiences always knew one thing. They weren't signing up for a solo adventure. They were there for a crew, for the messy dynamics of command, friendship, and found family. That ensemble structure became the backbone of the franchise's cinematic tradition. The stories were rarely about one person alone. They were about the way individuals grew in relation to others, the way leadership was tested in community, and the way Starfleet ideal survived through teamwork. But Section 31, it's already breaking away from that. Section 31 puts Michelle Yeoh's Emperor Giorgio front and center. Instead of a beloved crew on the bridge, Section 31 is explicitly a character-driven spin-off focusing on Emperor Philippa Georgiou. Played by Academy Award winner Michelle Yeoh, Georgiou is a morally complex figure, ruthless when necessary, brilliant in survival, and forged in the fires of the Terran Empire. While her journey in Discovery softens some of her edges, she remains an outlier in Star Trek, a character who thrives in moral gray areas, and who is deeply individualistic. This makes Section 31 the first Star Trek film in 46 years to abandon the ensemble tradition. There is no promise of a familiar bridge crew backing her up, no balancing of personalities across the command structure. Georgiou is the focus, and the narrative is designed to orbit her. That alone upends what has defined every single Star Trek movie up until now. Why this shift matters. Some fans see this as long overdue. The Star Trek television universe has always had more freedom to experiment with structure, from Deep Space Nine serialized war arcs to Discovery's season-long mysteries. But the movies? They've always played it safe, leaning on the ensemble. By centering on Georgiou and Section 31, Paramount is signaling that the rules are no longer set in stone. A Star Trek movie can now be about one person's journey rather than a collective mission. It can be a spy thriller instead of an exploration epic. It can embrace moral ambiguity instead of leaning on clean-cut Starfleet principles. In short, Section 31 is redefining what a Star Trek film is allowed to be. Section 31's tone will break more traditions. The ensemble shift isn't the only break from tradition. Section 31 is also likely to be the darkest Star Trek movie ever made. For decades, the films, no matter how dire, carried an undercurrent of hope. Even The Wrath of Khan, which killed Spock, ended with the idea of rebirth. First Contact, which flirted with horror, concluded with humanity's first steps into a brighter interstellar community. Section 31's entire ethos is different. This is the branch of Starfleet that does the dirty work: espionage, assassinations, and covert manipulation. A movie centered on them can't lean into optimism the same way. Instead, it will likely embrace espionage tropes, moral compromises, and a sense of uncertainty about whether the ends justify the means. This doesn't mean Star Trek will abandon its values entirely. After all, Georgiou's arc has been about reconciling ruthless pragmatism with the Federation's ideals. But it does suggest a film that subverts the long-held tradition of Star Trek movies, ending on an unambiguous note of hope. Michelle Yeoh's star power and the franchise's evolution. The other key tradition being broken is how Star Trek movies have always prioritized the brand over the actor. For decades, Star Trek films were ensemble showcases. While William Shatner and Patrick Stewart were beloved, the films didn't exist solely to highlight them. They existed to carry the Star Trek name forward. But with Section 31, Michelle Yeoh's star power is the selling point. After winning an Academy Award for Everything Everywhere All at Once, Yeoh became one of the most acclaimed actors in the world. Paramount's decision to anchor an entire Star Trek movie around her demonstrates a franchise pivot. Sometimes the actor drives the project more than the crew or the ship. That too breaks a 46-year precedent, a future of new traditions. If Section 31 is successful, it won't just be a one-off experiment. It could open the door for future Star Trek movies that are smaller in scale, character-centric, or focus on morally gray stories. Imagine a Garrick espionage film, a Seven of Nine vigilante story, or a Pike-era thriller unconnected to a full ensemble.